Well, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Business Today. I'm Nokip Kimboy, and it is Friday. I hope you're excited. New month, a lot happening, of course, over the week. We're going to be putting that in perspective with our resident economist, Ken Gishinga, on Week in Perspective. But a lot of big stories in the financial world. We've seen Safaricom release their half-year result. How is that going? Still making a lot of profits, a lot of context shall be made later on, of course, in terms of the way Safaricom is performing. At the same time, we have other big stories that have been happening across the week. We have NSSF trying to reach the informal market. What are they doing to do that? We shall be giving you more details also. Apart from that, we have the big story of the expressway, the viability of the project and how important it is. We shall all be putting all this in one pot, mixing, stirring it up for you and serving you the best business content in this side of Africa and the world. So I hope you're ready, tighten your seatbelt. I will be your captain for the next 1 hour. And we start with one of the big stories today. Mobile phone service provider Safaricom has defied a harsh economic environment to report a net profit of 35.6 billion shillings in its half-year results. The firm has attributed the strong performance to growth in its data and mobile money business during the half-year period. Revenue grew by 18.2% to 41.97 billion shillings as mobile data revenue increased by 4% to 19.78 billion shillings. Speaking at an investor briefing earlier today, Safaricom's interim CEO Michael Joseph exceeded confidence in the telco's earnings, noting that the company was on a steady growth path despite voice business revenue declining. Moving into the future, Safaricom looks to venture into Ethiopia as well as scale its foothold in the home internet business.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Right now, we are standing by with the interim CEO of Safaricom, that is Michael Joseph. You've just announced results for the half year, posting some impressive numbers, 35 billion in net profits. And what do you see in the horizon at the end of the day?
Look, I can't really predict what's going to happen, but I think, from Safaricom's point of view, we are focused definitely on improving on that result. We are not definitely predicting anything else other than doing better at what we do. Hopefully with our new initiative, with the NEO initiative, with the Simple, Transparent, Honest initiative, we'll do better. We'll encourage more people to move back to Safaricom that have moved away, that people would spend more money on data because now it's much more predictable what you can do with your data and that it doesn't run out. So I think I'm looking at better results in the second half.
All right. And Michael, when you look at when you assess the results, you tend to see that data business is really doing better compared to the last 5 years. We're also seeing some serious numbers out of the mobile money business. And what's going to shape the future of the organization from where you sit?
I mean, both things. Both data is going to be really core for us going forward in terms of the bread and butter of Safaricom. And that's why we're focusing, and you've seen on our capital expenditure, on our free cash flow, we're spending. We're accelerating our build of the 4G network. We're rolling it out to every town in Kenya by the year end. We see data as being the bread and butter, but it has to be the data experience that will drive it. It's not just having access to a data network. Your experience has to be good. So it's not just focused on the radio side or the cell side. It's also on the back office side, on the core network, the network that our submarine cables, our data, our fiber optic network, all this. We need to give you a better data experience.
All right. And Michael, when I assess the numbers, I see a lot of revenue coming in, especially when you look at the other platforms that you have unveiled. This touches on M-Shwari, of course, Fuliza, some mind-blowing figures going into these products. And of course, you're also on record saying that you want to look at how best you can review and redesign these products. Perhaps what should the consumers expect?
Look, I would like to do lots of things. I mean, some of the things are not within my scope to do, but I certainly want to make financial services less expensive for our customers. Safaricom is about transforming lives. It's not about lending money to the rich people or the well-off people. It's about transforming lives for the bread and butter of the people who really make up the mainstay of Safaricom. So I would like to see more affordable financial services. I've said this before, I'll continue saying it, and whatever I can do and whatever service we can bring, that will help make that happen. So, you know, Fuliza, Mshwari, all are good services, but I still see them as a little too expensive for our base of our customers, the mass of our customers. And also I want to make sure that, you know, I'm concerned about the ability of people to borrow small amounts of money and then sort of go around on a merry-go-round, borrowing money to repay money and then borrowing money to repay this one. And I'd like to see that sort of be a little bit more, I wouldn't say word use controlled, but a better managed. And so that's why I think Safaricom has a role to play, and certainly that's what we'll focus over in the next 6 to 9 months.
And this is a very important product because some say it has turned out to be a loan shark. And of course, I don't know what your position on this, but there are also those that default on this. And looking at the economy right now, we are seeing some squeezing of the credit space.
Look, I've seen this term loan shark. I'm not happy with that. I'm not. See, because Safaricom actually doesn't lend the money. Sure. You know, we facilitate the process to the channel to access the loans and to access the credit. We don't do it ourselves. And of course, we're working with our banking partners to try to bring this cost down and to make it a bit more, I would say, you know, there are a lot of people lending money now who are not even licensed to lend money. So we work very clearly with the people who have the license from the CBK to do lending. And we try to use our influence to reduce that price, and we will continue. Now, can we do some big things? Let's see.
All right. And perhaps as we end of to the tail end of this discussion, Michael, you've talked about influence, and I've remembered there's, of course, the issue around the merger that is underway between Airtel and Telkom. And, of course, Safaricom had raised its reservations. And what are the main issues that perhaps Safaricom is putting up a case? And are you worried about this merger?
No, I'm not worried. And I've gone on record saying, and I said it a number of times, and I'll repeat it again, we are not concerned about the merger. We are not going to oppose the merger. In fact, my predecessor welcomed the merger. I have no concerns about the merger. You know, we've fought many, many battles, and this is not something new for us. Mm-hmm. My concern is that it's fair and equitable. So when the merger happens, the two companies combined will have a bigger spectrum than we have. And we want to make sure that we have equitable spectrum. How that happens is up for the regulator to manage. All we're saying, we want equal spectrum. That's all. Secondly, the company being merged owes us quite a lot of money, and we'd like that money paid back. And thirdly, if you look into it very carefully, you'll see many of the licenses that both companies have not been paid for, like we have had to pay for our licenses. We have always paid our licenses. If you go into it in detail, and I encourage you to look, you'll see that they have not paid for their licenses themselves. Yeah. And I think we want to have equal treatment. If we pay $25 million or $30 million for a license, so should our competitors pay cash.
And Michael, touching on the new appointment of Peter Ndegwa, where does this place the company? Of course, he's reporting in April. And the chairman also was very clear that he was the best fit for the job. From your side of things, how do you envision the transition?
Look, I've met Peter a number of times. I was on the panel that interviewed him and selected him. I think that in terms of the parameters of the job, the way we set the job, and the way we set what kind of candidate we wanted, he was the best candidate for the job. He brings the level of experience, maturity, understanding, smartness, empathy with the customer. I think he brings all those elements. You know, it's like going back to when we hired Bob. Mm-hmm. You know, many people said Bob didn't have any experience of actually managing or operating a company. He was in his previous job, he was managing external relations and things like that. Yeah. But look what Bob did to the company. He grew into the company, and he grew himself and the company at the same time. So I have no doubt that Peter will do the same. But of course, Peter comes from having operated a company in Nigeria and Ghana, a big role in Europe. I expect that he will do as well. And of course, we will be there to help him. I mean, myself will stay on to help him transition to the job. So I see that I have no doubt that he will do a good job.
All right. As the founding CEO, how does it make you feel seeing a Kenyan after 19 years taking up this very all-powerful position?
Look, that's an interesting question. You know, during my term as CEO, I think I had three-year terms, and each time my term was coming up for renewal, there was a push to get a Kenyan into the company. And even when we went with Bob, it was the same thing. I think, you know, and I agree that after 19 years, we should have a Kenyan running a Kenyan company.
Of course, we've been speaking there to Michael Joseph, the interim CEO of Safaricom, giving us some key highlights out of this year's half-year results. We now hand it back to you in studio.
All right, that is Marty Safaricom, and even to give us further details is their half-year results this morning when they were released. These are the details in regards to that. Just take a look at this particular clip.
M-Pesa, of course, is doing extremely well, despite the challenges of when the betting was curtailed, which formed quite a significant portion of M-Pesa. We still grew the number of customers by 12%, and we increased the volume of transactions by about 12% as well, up to 4.5 billion in transactions.
And now to move on to profits. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce EBIT, or earnings before interest and taxes, grew from 44.2 billion Kenyan shillings to 49.8 billion shillings, as you can see from the waterfall chart on the left. This is an increase of 5.6 billion shillings, underpinned by solid commercial performance, we just spoke about, and complemented by a strong focus on cost optimization and sweating assets that we have invested in. The graph on the right-hand side shows our EBIT margin improved 2.4 percentage points from 36.1% the previous year to 38.5%, thereby creating a capacity for us to continue to invest where we think the future is.
All right, and at this particular moment, I'd like to hand it over to our business editor, Abi Agina, to dig further into this Safaricom story. Over to you, Abi.
Well, many thanks indeed, Noah. Safaricom defying odds, reporting a 14.4% jump in net profits. Of course, the firm has been steering some very turbulent waters. And to help us understand some of the key outcomes of the Safaricom strategy is the Chief Customer Officer, that is Sylvia Mulinge, joining us right now. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you for having me.
And Sylvia, just out of these results, of course, Kenya's economy is currently experiencing some downturn, if you ask a majority of businesses. How is it that Safaricom still remains to stay up on top?
I think from what you had today, I mean, we did acknowledge the challenges that we are facing in the economy, and I think these challenges are being felt across all the sectors. We have seen even the reports that are coming through of businesses being shut down, and a lot of SMEs are closing. And obviously this has an impact in terms of the disposable incomes that are available to our customers. I think for us, what has helped us to steer through these turbulent times is just, first of all, having a recognition that we're operating in a different environment, which therefore requires a kind of a business unusual strategy. You had us speak to the fact that we've had to recalibrate even the products and services we've been taking to the market. Last year, we took significant price changes on our data and our data offerings. And then also internally within the organization, there's been a lot of cost optimization efforts that have been deployed to make sure that we also cut back and ensure that we run a very lean machine. So I think the balance of this is what has helped us to be able to deliver this set of results. But we're obviously hoping that the economy does better this year.
All right. And speaking about the economy doing better this year, and of course you rejigging your business model, what do you see in the future prospects? Especially right now, you're seeing you've actually introduced a new data plan.
Yes.
And this is seemingly expected to turn things around, especially for the consumer side of things.
Yes, I mean, in keeping with what's happening globally, consumers nowadays are consuming a lot of data.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. And therefore, for any telco, when you look at the solid pillars that will drive future growth, we are fortunate we have M-Pesa, which a lot of telcos do not have. So that kind of builds a moat around the business. But that does not stop us from focusing on the growth engine of data. So the decisions that we made and the announcements that we had last week around data are bold, they're courageous. There are not many telcos across the world who have implemented a no expiry date promise.
Yeah.
But we believe that if we are able to do that, then it's a signal that we believe in our consumers. We have had them, and we are looking to see how they can be able to consume a lot more data with a lot less worry about issues such as expiry. I think the other thing that we've also done is conscious of what's happening with regards to consumer disposable incomes. We are saying you don't have to have reached a certain amount to be able to buy. So you can actually now buy data for any amount. For as low as a shilling or two, you'll be able to get some MBs. If you want to buy for 99 shillings, 17 shillings, it's up to you. So I think these two key promises of you can buy for any amount and no expiry date just continues to reinforce the commitment we have.
And Sylvia, of course, data business is quite significant for Safaricom. And perhaps in terms of this particular niche of part of the products that you offer as a company, what are some of the plans in the pipeline, especially in rolling out new products that can deliver strong revenue lines over and above your core areas such as mobile money and data?
I think for us, the key thing is we have to keep on listening to the consumers and figuring out what's happening in the current context they are existing in, and then developing relevant products and services to meet the same. So for example, this year we launched Fuliza, which is now 9-10 months, and you have the fantastic results that you've been able to see. And that came out of a context of understanding the realities of how difficult it is for customers to be able to access sometimes credit. That's why we have products like M-Shwari. Or people want to complete their transactions, but they're not able to complete because they do not have enough money. So being able to bridge that gap.
All right.
So I think for as long as we remain innovative and keeping our hearts and our ears close to what our consumers are concerned about, I think we'll continue to run ahead.
Okay. And Sylvia, looking at the bigger picture, of course, some of the corporates are also looking up to Safaricom, especially now that the company has marked 19 years since operations were started. What will be defining the next couple of years for you as an organization?
Well, you never give away too much of your strategy. I think it's going to be consumer-centric.
All right.
Michael, our CEO, today in the morning just spoke about some of the growth expansion plans that we have. I believe there's a lot more that we can do. We've been fortunate that some of the bets that we've taken that have allowed us to go beyond just offering basic telco services have paid off. So I think for us, it's just to look at our consumers, look at their digital lifestyles, and then figure out how do we innovate and model new business models driven by our consumers' habits. So there's quite a bit. Before, I think in January, we're announcing something new. So be on the lookout for that. There's a lot more in the innovation pipeline that we want to be bringing to our customers, but all premised on the fact that we want to be simple, we want to be transparent, and we want to be honest in our communications.
Perfect place to end the conversation. Thank you so much, Sylvia Mulinge, Chief Customer Officer at Safaricom, just giving us some interesting perspectives into how the organization has performed in this particular half-year results. And of course, a lot of expectations when you look at the stock, which is the most capitalized stock in the stock exchange. And of course, Safaricom continues to be a company that many Kenyans are looking up to, especially for the dividends, that is for the shareholders. Noah, on the other side, what do you have for us?
Well, thank you very much, Abi, for that detailed interview. Now, we want to shift gears all the way to the coast in a quest to fight illicit trade. 4 high-end vehicles that were nabbed at the port of Mombasa have been repatriated back to the UK, where they were stolen from. The 2 black Range Rover Vogue Autobiography, a black Range Rover Sport, and a white Mercedes-Benz will be received by the UK police authorities, specifically the National Vehicle Crime Intelligence Services. UK police will undertake further law enforcement measures to eventually reunite the vehicles with their rightful owners.
As part of the joint anti-illicit trade, agencies working at the port of Mombasa recently disrupted an international organized syndicate that has been smuggling stolen motor vehicles through the port and selling them in East African market. Between March and September 2019, KRA, DCI, and KPA, in collaboration, intercepted 21 high-valued motor vehicles imported from the UK, and then, of course, transshipped through the port of Mombasa. Besides collaboration among Kenyan agencies, these interceptions were also made possible through the information and intelligence exchange with international law enforcement partners.
Since March 2019, the Kenyan Revenue Authority, DCI's Interpol Kenya, Kenya Port Authority, and the other concerned Kenyan agencies have been working closely with the UK's National Vehicle Crime Agency Service, Interpol UK, National Crime Agency, and local UK police from various seaports around London to identify and seize high-end, high-value vehicles that have been stolen in the UK.
All right, moving on swiftly, National Social Security Fund has now turned to the informal sector to grow pension contributions. Speaking on the sidelines of the 2019-2022 Corporate Strategic Plan and Integrated System launch, Acting CEO Anthony Omerikwa said the product will focus on segments such as boda, market vendors, athletes, taxis, matatus, among others.
Thank you so much. So the NSSF members, please come and help in the giving of the cake.
Coverage is way under 20% in the country for those people who are employed. Under the informal sector, previously we only covered 300,000 people. There's a potential of over 17 million to be covered. Secondly, what is different about this product is that we went out there and listened to what the customer, these people in the informal sector, really wanted in a product, in terms of a pension product. Then we realized that most of them don't want a very long-term product. Most of them want ease of contribution in terms of the quantum to be contributed, and they also wanted to use technology so that the process of contributing is not expensive.
And now let us dive into the tech world, where a number of tech companies have released their Q3 results. South Korea's tech giant Samsung has marked a plunge in its profit by 56% in the third quarter. The drop to $6.7 billion in profits from $15.1 billion in the same period last year has been attributed to a slowdown in memory chip sales. Its smartphone business recorded a 2.5 billion shillings profit, capitalizing on Huawei's woes. Moving to iOS, Apple's quarterly sales noted a drop in iPhone sales, even as their wearables products peaked to cover the slump. Sales for wearables, including Apple Watch and AirPods, surged 54%, with quarterly sales of services growing 18%. Overall sales grew 2% to $64 billion. Twitter will stop accepting political ads, according to its CEO, Jack Dorsey. This contradicts Facebook's stand of not fact-checking political advertisements. In 2018, Twitter made $3 million from political ads, whereas Facebook made $17 billion from advertisements in the last quarter. Facebook projects political ads will not contribute more than 0.5% of its revenue. No, keep Kimboy. Now, Kitty and Business. The coastal part of Kenya, Italian billionaire Flavio Briatore has hinted at bringing in more foreign investors to Malindi if the national government completes the expansion of the Malindi International Airport. Briatore, who owns the luxurious Billionaires Resort and the exclusive Lion in the Sand Resort, said he is happy with the ongoing development, including the tarmacking of roads done by the Kilifi County government, which is showing a new face.
I hope everybody understands the first step in Malindi is the airport. The moment the airport arriving and the cleaning town. Okay, this is the two more important part is the cleaning town to welcome the tourists and have the airport. The moment you have the airport, I promise you, myself as well, building another one hotel in Malindi is not the problem. I'm building anything now, and you create a job for the people. Because Malindi, the coast, Kilifi is a tourism. It's not, you don't have oil, you don't have nothing. You have only the tourism. To have the tourism, you need properly address the town with the airport. This is the first step.
Well, with that particular item from Malindi, we take a short break right here on Business Today. But remember, we'll come back with a week in perspective with the one and only Ken Gishinga. Stay tuned.